What's going on, guys? My name is Wyatt Reed. Today, I get to interview my brother Jacob Ninan, who is focusing on wholesaling and novations. Brother, I appreciate you coming on and just tell us a little bit about yourself and how you got started, man.
Definitely an honor to be on here with you. It's been great connecting with you guys. So just appreciate you having me on. So how we got started actually came from a corporate background. Was running corporate body shops for quite a long time, and somewhere around 2019 is when I got into real estate. It was actually my sister came to me one day and mentioned something about flipping houses or investing in real estate. I had literally no clue what that meant. Like, as cheesy and as cliche as it sounds, like my extent of real estate or flipping houses was HGTV, watching the shows, seeing that people were doing that stuff, and just thought, okay, yeah, it's that simple, it's that easy. But
Not as fun as they make it out to be.
no, definitely not. It can be once you learn how to do it and figure out the right systems and processes. But yeah, but it's kind of like most people say, you don't know what you don't know, So that's kind of how we started. We did, semi well for being complete newbies and not really knowing what we were doing. I didn't at that time. I had no clue about what a coach was, what a mentor was. Like, I was reading books, listening to podcasts, YouTube University, that kind of thing. I kind of haphazardly found that kind of stuff. Didn't have a clue what wholesaling was, none of this kind of stuff. So anyway, we flipped about 4 houses, and by about that time, COVID came along. No one could have predicted or whatnot, and we were in the middle of a way too big of a project for what I would consider a newbie. Really, I probably wouldn't even do that size project now with all the knowledge I have anyway. But we got caught in the middle of that. COVID hit, couldn't get permitting, municipalities, and on top of that, contractor we were using that we hadn't used before, we found out didn't pull any permits. And at this point, we'd already done like a 30-foot addition to the house. Footers had been poured, like none of it had been permitted. And inspectors weren't out at houses because COVID, they weren't allowed to go out. So anyway, we navigated that, thankfully, came out on the other end, not losing too bad. But in the process of doing that, I was kind of turned on to a thing called wholesaling by a cousin of mine who actually, he does what we do up in North Carolina. He turned me on to that topic, and I started heavily researching it. And in the process of going through what we did with the flipping, I was pretty convinced wholesaling was the way I needed to go. So as we came out of it, we decided to kind of stop flipping, and I picked up wholesaling and ran with it. So lead generation, if you would have said that to me back then, I'd have just looked at you and my eyes would have crossed. I'd have been like, what are you talking about? Literally the first deal we ever did was just me telling, I guess, my circle of influence, people that I was around every day, hey, like, we're going to flip houses. And a friend of mine came forward and was like, hey, my girlfriend, we're buying a house together and she wants to sell the house she has, go take a look at it, make us an offer. So literally my first deal just came from telling people what I was doing or what I was trying to do. And so I tell a lot of people that all the time, like, there's no reason that anyone that's around you for any substantial amount of time should not know what you do and how they can help you do what you do. So, telling people what you do is super important. Those free lead channels or just kind of word of mouth it's invaluable.
Sphere I used to hang out with was obviously not the same sphere I do now, but it always kind of seemed like an annoyance to them how much I talked about real estate. There was no doubt that I was doing real estate to everybody that was in my circle, right? So I agree with you. That's very, very important to know and understand. It's free lead sources, it's branding, it's you don't have to start out spending a buttload of money on marketing to do deals.
Right. No, that's important. I think you and I talked about that a while ago about getting in the right circles, being around the right people. It goes from you sound like you're bragging or you sound like you're just trying to be better than everyone else versus, hey, we just all have that abundance mindset. We're all just trying to grow our businesses, grow our financial freedom, whatever that looks like. So no, 100% I agree with that.
For sure. Take us through, you were a brand new investor. Now we know how you got those deals. Talk about the funding side of it, because I mean, for properties, even one property is a lot of money, right? How did you guys go about getting the funding for those?
So again, I liken back to you don't know what you don't know. Like literally we had no clue what private money was, hard money. We didn't know any of that. So we both owned homes that we bought during the Great Recession, and we were both moving to another side of town to put our kids in a specific school. And in the process, we sold our homes and we had substantial amounts of equity. I do not necessarily recommend that with all the other options that are available that I know of now. I'm not saying that you can't tap into equity if you need to, but there are much safer, secure ways of doing it. But anyhow, we both sold our homes, had sizable amounts of equity, and we were literally self-funded on like our first two deals. We were paying for all the rehab and things like that. By about that time, we figured out we went to a meetup or two, or got in front of the right YouTube video and found out, hey, there's this thing called hard money. Private money was kind of like this special thing, like this unicorn that supposedly people use, and it exists somewhere. It's just extremely hard to find. Which now we know it's still, it takes more work than a hard money lender, but it's achievable and it's doable with the right relationships and whatnot. But yeah, first couple of deals we were self funded, super risky. If we would have lost out on a deal, we would have lost everything we had. But thankfully we didn't. And then that's when we came across hard money lenders, and that was able to really propel us and help us kind of move forward. And we would have been in a great position had it not been for the COVID thing. But I believe things happen for a reason, and I completely shifted my mindset and business model to a degree, led me down the path I'm on, and I can't be any happier with that.
Yeah, I was actually onboarding a new student last night. He did have some money, and we were talking about using other people's money. And what I always tell my students is that if you have a little bit of money, like put it into the lead gen, into the finding deals, because the money is super easy, especially if you're in the right circles. Finding the deals is the hard part. So I always tell people, if they have a little bit of money, let's do some more. Don't worry about funding the deals. We'll get the deals funded. Let's grow your actual business. Yeah, 100%. Let's talk about that shift, though, from the flipping to the wholesaling. What did that look like as far as marketing? You can't necessarily wholesale other wholesalers' deals. You can still do free lead sources. It's a little bit harder, right? But what did that look like? What did that transition look like for you?
So, going from being a flipper where we were sourcing our deals either by, relationship or other wholesalers, to being a wholesaler, I've never JV'd a deal, so to speak, as a wholesaler. So I never was like trying to wholesale other deals. Not to mention, I was told very early on, like my cousin, who was an experienced wholesaler at that point, like daisy chaining is a no-go. You got to have permission, all that kind of stuff. So I had inside track on that, like, hey, this is the no-nos of this and don't do it this way. But eventually we were already semi trying to figure out lead generation before we decided not to flip anymore. And I think one of the most common, possibly cheapest entries of marketing that we know of in real estate investing is cold calling. The only thing probably cheaper cost per lead is probably texting. But as most people know, there's a lot of challenges with that right now. And there's still a lot of challenges that exist with cold calling now, but if you know what you're doing, you can navigate it. But anyhow, we got into cold calling. We were getting data, pulling lists from, wherever, PropStream. What was the old one? Was it Lead or something like the source? Yeah. Like, pulling data from the normal, like the places you learn to pull from when you first get on this thing, so pulling those lists, cold calling people. And then we got to the point where we were doing a deal here and there. And as soon as I could afford and budget to farm out the cold calling to a cold caller, like we immediately jumped on it. For one, that's just not who I am. I don't like cold calling. But two, I was coming to the realization that my time was best spent going on appointments or closing deals versus sitting somewhere making 200 plus dials a day.
Yeah, I mean, so there were two good nuggets in there that I heard you say for you guys listening that are brand new. I don't know who teaches this, but they shouldn't. When he says daisy chain, that's where you find a wholesaler's deal and you put it out as their own deal for more money. You can look like an idiot if you do that the wrong way. There is a such thing as JVing and doing it the correct way. But I always tell other wholesalers that ask to look at my deals that I'm wholesaling myself, like, you're not putting this out on any like social media or anything like that. If you have a buyer, bring him or her, but you're not putting this deal out. That's what we daisy chaining, and like you said, that's a big no-no. And then I agree 100% with you. The second one is that, like, your job is to find deals and find money. That should be your only job. Like cold calling or going in and painting your own house or doing your own flooring or some type of remodel or trying to be the realtor on the end, and you're trying to wear all these different hats. Now, you do have to wear hats, multiple hats in the beginning, but trying to do all of that, that's a big no-no as well. Like, I figured that out. I tried to paint my first house, and in the middle of summer with no HVAC, I got one room done. It's done, man. I will never do that again, ever. So, yeah, 100%. You should be working on your business and not in your business as soon as you possibly can.
100%. I preach that all the time.
So, all right, you're wholesaling. You're cold calling. You're direct to seller. You're talking to people about selling you their house. Then you're assigning it for a fee, right? How did you transition into starting doing novations? And explain to us, because novation's a big boy word, right?
Yeah.
So explain to us kind of what a novation is and how you got linked up in doing that, because we've made a lot of money doing novations.
Yeah. So novations, in the truest sense of the word, is just basically a replacement of contract. So you have an assignment, which we all understand is you have a contract with the seller, and then you're assigning the rights to that contract to an end buyer. Then you have a double close where you have two separate contracts. You're closing on one, and then you turn right around and close on the second one. And then you have a novation where you have an initial contract with the seller, and now you go find a buyer in a similar fashion that you would in wholesaling, in terms of you find an end buyer. But this contract that you've signed with the end buyer it's a contract that's being signed by the seller of the property and the end buyer, and it now replaces that original contract. And so you might ask, well, what is that? Why would you need to do that? What's the purpose? So this is for the purposes of taking properties that could potentially sell to a finance buyer, meaning someone that's got FHA financing, USDA financing, VA financing, basically for an owner occupant in most cases. So if you come across a property that you feel is move-in ready, someone could live in it, and that it could pass, an FHA or VA or USDA inspection, and maybe require minimal repairs, or, maybe not require hardly anything at all. If you feel like it's the case, now you're able to offer your sellers a more competitive price point, a more competitive offer that a wholesaler that's assigning it or double closing it can never come close to, because your end buyer is not an investor. It's not someone that's trying to buy the property with a certain amount of equity to be able to invest and make a profit on it. It's an end buyer that would live in the house, that's trying to buy this house to live in it. And as we know, anything that's on the retail market, if you're buying it to live in it, most people will pay pretty much close to what, whatever appraised value is or whatnot, because they're going to live in it. They're not looking to make a profit. They just need a place to live. So, yeah, so they're much more emotional, which is good and bad. The good is, if they really love it, they'll pay whatever. The bad is, they might nitpick things. Just like when you flip a house, when you go to sell it, buyers are emotional. They're like, I don't like the paint color, or the cabinets aren't the same hardware I wanted, or whatever. But the benefit to it is, it's not a flipped house. It's just a nice house, or a decent house, that you're giving to someone at a good price. It's typically lower than what a flipped house would cost. So you're coming in slightly lower on the expectation from the end buyer a lot of times, but you're also giving your seller, 30, 40, 50, sometimes more $1,000 than anyone else, any other investor has offered them.
Yeah, man. I don't want to get too far off in the weeds, because this is definitely a more strategy, I would say. Oh, yeah. There's a lot of moving parts. There's a different conversation that you have to have with the seller, more pages in the contract, contract date. There's a lot that goes into this. But what I really want to push from this conversation is that it's very, very important to be in communities and in circles that there are people doing other things than you. Because if you come in and you learn how to wholesale, or you learn how to seller finance or whatever, and then you've got leads coming in that are essentially not going to work out for what your strategy is. You're a more well-rounded investor by being in that community and saying, hey, Jacob, I got this deal. Like, it don't make sense to me for this, but I know you novate. I don't know what that means, but could it work? Can I be a part of that while you do it?
Yeah, if I could add, so Novations was this word, this buzzword, this hot topic being thrown around in real estate, for a little while now. And we would come across properties because we had a general idea of how it would go. We kind of drew up a guideline of how we would do it, and we got into it and realized, man, this is incredibly hard because there's a lot of moving parts, or at least we didn't know what those moving parts exactly were. So it wasn't until I sought out, expert, feedback on these things in form of coaches and mentors. And once I was able to connect with the right people and started being mentored by the people that were experts in that field is when we really took off with it. So I say all that to say, like, it's not like I have all the answers. I'm always looking to see who's ahead of me, who's where I want to be. So if your coach doesn't have a coach, I say this all the time, I'd proceed with caution.
Yeah. I heard it from a guy that has discipled me, not in business, but, mentored me, discipled me. He's always telling me, you got to have someone that's ahead of you. You got to have some people that are with you in the same space. And then you got to bring some guys along with you that are wanting to be there. It makes a good community. So
100%.
Absolutely, man. Well, hey, we're getting close on time. Let me ask you a couple of fire questions real quick. Mm-hmm. Let's wrap this thing up. What does your morning routine look like? You have a good morning routine or what?
Yeah, man. So it's funny that you say that. I believe I hit you up a few months back asking you about your routine, and you gave me some advice there. So that was insightful. But essentially, getting up, what I try to do before I do anything is get in the Word. I have a devotional that I read, goes along with the Word. And so I like to get in that first thing in the morning, set the tone for my day. I'm a firm believer that if you start your day off with reading the Word, reading God's Word, that you're basically setting yourself up for success. So I plugged that in, have been doing that consistently, been receiving a lot of revelation as far as my personal life and my business goes, and just, good guidance, what I'm saying? So that's a big part of my routine. I typically don't get to the office and start doing anything work related till around 10 a.m. Some people think, man, that's pretty late, whatever. But the reality is the people we're talking to, the people we're doing business with, they're not answering the phones before that. We're not going to someone's house to look at it or whatever, usually before that time. So I shifted my perspective on that after I sat down and I could start calling someone at 8 o'clock, but they're not calling me back till 11. I'm not getting a hold of them until then. So, for you entrepreneurs out there that, I've heard it tossed around a million times, you got to wake up at 4 in the morning. Hey, that's fine. You could wake up at 4 in the morning, go work out, do all those things, and that's great. And I'm incorporating that things in my routine as well. But at the end of the day, as far as what I'm doing business-wise, like, I'm not really talking to people till past 10 o'clock.
I'll tell you what, Tom says that all the time. Tom is my mentor. Shout out to Tom Cole. He called me on my birthday at 4 in the morning, and he was ringing his little victory bell. Hey, what birthday? Good morning. Go out and make a lot of money. So I get up, and he's one of the first ones I see on my timeline. I don't know if he schedules his because you can schedule posts, and I'm like, Tom, I think you're scheduling posts. I don't know, but yeah, heck yeah, man. When you're first getting started, it depends on your job, right? And so when I was first getting started, I had to be at work at 6, so I would wake up at 4:30, and I would schedule out my day. Who am I going to call? What am I going to do during lunch? And I would go make those calls and schedule everything for after work or on the weekends. You got to do what you got to do when you're first getting started. Now, for me, mine is very similar to yours. I'll wake up at 7, between 6:30 and 7:30, just depending on what it is going on. And I'll go get up. I'll go to the gym, get a workout in. I'll come and do my quiet time. And then I don't start my day until around 10 o'clock. So I'm straight aligned with you on that. So tell me what the last book you read was.
Yeah, I'm actually in the middle of reading 2 different books right now. The one that I'm reading, one of the ones I'm reading business-wise is The 5 Dysfunctions of a Team. It's been pretty eye-opening, relating to what I'm doing and building a team and bigger team, it's eye opening on just the different personalities and how to bring that together. And then, of course, like I mentioned earlier, I read a devotional. It's the 1 minute businessman devotional. I think it's by Mike Murdoch. It's literally like a 1 minute devotional, gives you some scripture reference, and then you just get in the Word. And as anyone that reads the Bible knows, you can trail on and on, and one thing leads to another. But yeah, so those are the two things I'm reading right now.
Last but not least, if you were to give any advice to the new guys that are listening to this on how to get started, or something that you wish you would have known back then, and what would that be?
Man, there's a lot that can go into that question. For a completely new beginner, someone that doesn't have a clue, I would say the biggest thing I could say is take action and don't be afraid to fail. And when I say fail, in my mind, a failure is when you stop, like it knocks you down and you just stayed down and decided to go do something else or whatever. That in my mind is a failure. It's not getting knocked down. It's when you stay down. If you get back up and you keep pressing forward, and it's thrown around real estate circles all the time, but failing forward, like, it really is important. But just start. A lot of people get overwhelmed by the concept. They see all the bright flashing lights. They might listen to me and what I just spoke about with Novations, be like, I'll never be able to understand it. That's not true, because not that long ago, I had no clue what it was, couldn't tell you, anything about it. Now we actively operate in it at a high level. So, biggest takeaway, take action and just don't be afraid to fail. Just get back up and keep moving forward.
Oh, man, that's awesome, dude. I appreciate your time. How can people get a hold of you? And tell us about like what's going on. We just recently made some changes in what you're doing and started doing some stuff together. Tell us how they can get a hold of you and what you're doing right now.
Yeah, so easiest way to get a hold of me would be on, Facebook and Instagram. Yes, I use Facebook. I'm not that old, but anyway, you can hit me up on Facebook, Jacob Ninan. Then, of course, on Instagram, jacob.e.ninan. You can reach me both ways. I'm not always on there, but I'm on there enough where I'll see your messages or whatnot. But yeah, as far as, what Wyatt was speaking to, some things we just launched. So yeah, we're partnering. The bigger thing is we're partnering on an advanced mastermind group for business and real estate professionals, known as a Sin Mastermind. It's actually a huge win for us, something that's been on my heart for a couple of years now. And I feel like, I was connected with Wyatt for a purpose to do this. But yeah, we're going to connect, bring a community together at an advanced level. Hopefully we can bring some value to that and to each other.
That leads us to a great outro. Guys, if you're interested in learning how we do what we do, as a beginner or as someone who's been in it for a minute and wants to put systems and processes in place to get out of the business and start working on the business, just reach out to us, DM us. We're both on Facebook. You can go to sellerfinancedeals.com, fill out an application. We'll do a call with you, and the thing is, it's me and Jacob personally. It's not one of our team members. It's us. We look at every one of these applications personally, and we reach out to you personally. So go do that. Find us, DM us, and we'd love to talk to you about getting in this community. Thanks for being on, man. Appreciate it.
Yes, sir. Appreciate the honor to be on here.
Hey, guys, if you got anything out of this podcast, man, I hope that you will come back, you'll listen, you'll subscribe to it. And look, if you're interested in learning how we do what we do, because interest rates are high right now, like it's hard to do normal things, normal strategies, and we're teaching seller financing and creative financing, and that is super, super important to know. And so if you're interested in learning how to do the things that we do, reach out to us. Let's have a conversation.